Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Knobi Cooks. Today we're cooking orecchiette with Brussels sprouts. The combination of Brussels sprouts and Mediterranean ingredients will blow you away. If you like my content, please leave a like and subscribe. But now let's jump into the video. Today we will need Brussels sprouts, some breadcrumbs, the peel of 1 lemon, some Parmesan, some dried tomatoes, a couple of shallots, 2 garlic cloves, some pine nuts, some olive oil, our set of spices and herbs, a large pan, a pot for boiling our pasta, and the orecchiette. I have already preheated the water before starting the video, and now I will put the heat back on. For starters, we will roast our pine nuts. It's important that we do that without oil. Simply put the pine nuts into your pan and afterwards put on some heat. But be careful, the pine nuts will take some time before they start roasting. But when they start, they are done very fast. Keep that in mind so you don't burn them in your pan. Now let's turn our attention to the shallots. We will dice them up like we always do. First we will start with some sideways cuts, and afterwards we'll do some horizontal cuts so we receive our dices. I very much like to do all the horizontal cuts first so I don't have any shallot dices or onion dices lying around on my cutting board. In my opinion, this simply makes your life much easier when you're dicing onions or shallots. Of course, you can also apply this cutting method to other vegetables. You can do it with zucchini or aubergines, carrots or celery, or anything you can think of really. If you do it this way, you don't have dices of the vegetables clinging to your knife, which sometimes can be really annoying when they fall off, when you really don't want them to fall off in that exact moment. They will land next to the cutting board or even on the ground, which is just a nuisance. However, if you prefer the other way around, to dice your vegetables one by one, you can of course also do it that way. I am just telling you my 2 cents here. With the shallots done and dusted, we can turn our attention to the garlic. We will simply dice the garlic into rough chunks. They don't need to be super fine. Great, now that's 2 ingredients less to cut. Since we don't need them right away and our pine nuts are still roasting in our pan, we'll simply put them onto a plate and put the onions and garlic aside for now. We will need them later on. This only leaves the dried tomatoes and the Brussels sprouts for cutting. So that's half of our ingredients cut. And that is one great advantage of this dish. You really don't need much cutting work to get a very tasty meal. In the meantime, we will check our noodle water. Mine is already boiling, so I will lower the heat a little bit and also check out your pine nuts. Mine are not roasting yet, that's why I'm increasing the heat a little bit here, but not too much. Okay, so now it's time to cut our Brussels sprouts. Cutting them is really easy. You simply take each sprout and cut it in half. Only if you have gigantic Brussels sprouts you may want to quarter them, but otherwise cutting them in half is just fine. I'm using frozen Brussels sprouts, which I thought before, but you can use fresh ones if you prefer that. For me, the frozen ones were simply easier to get, and that's why I'm using them for this video. In the meantime, don't forget to toss and turn your pine nuts from time to time. Once your pan is heated up nicely, they will start roasting in no time. You can tell that they have started roasting from the nutty smell that will spread throughout your kitchen. Oh, and other nuts work just as fine. You can use walnuts or hazelnuts if you prefer them, or if you simply cannot get your hand on pine nuts. And I highly recommend you to roast some kind of nuts for this dish. Oh, and talking about roasted nuts, let's stir our pine nuts once again. They are just about done now. They do smell great, and even though some of my pine nuts may have burned a little bit, they will still taste great. But for now, let's take them out of the pan and put them onto a plate. We will need the pine nuts again later on. And without further ado, we can start frying our Brussels sprouts. For this we will first put some olive oil into our hot pan. You can add a good swig because the other ingredients are not very fatty on their own. Well, and afterwards, simply add all of your Brussels sprouts into the pan. Stir them a little bit, and after that, you can hear them sizzling away. That's just music to my ears. Even if you don't like Brussels sprouts, I highly recommend you try this dish. My girlfriend doesn't like them either, but she was still blown away by the constellation of these ingredients. That leaves only one ingredient which we will need to show some love, our dried tomatoes. But they are very easy to take care of. Simply cut them into rough strips, and that's it. Now we have cut all of our ingredients for this dish. Yippee! From here on, the cooking will be just like a walk in the park. So in the meantime, let's stir our Brussels sprouts once more. By now, mine have started to brown in some places. Fried Brussels sprouts are just something else. You will be blown away by the taste. But for now, they will need some more frying time in the pan. But while we keep on frying our Brussels sprouts, we can already add the next ingredients. First, we will add our shallots and diced garlic into the mix, and after that we will also add our dried tomato strips into the pan. After that, simply stir them under and let all of the veggies sizzle away happily ever after. I usually don't cook that much vegetarian meals. However, Brussels sprouts with orecchiette is just something else, and I simply have to revisit this dish from time to time. But that doesn't mean there will be no vegetarian meals on Knobi Cooks. I have quite a few very tasty recipes, so keep a watch for more vegetarian recipes on Knobi Cooks in the future. So far our water has simply been boiling away happily, but now we will put it to use. It's time to cook our orecchiette. The packaging says these will take 9 minutes to be al dente, so I will keep an eye on the clock. And as a quick side note here, you can of course replace the orecchiette with other noodles if you cannot get your hands on them or simply prefer different noodles. The moment of truth has arrived. We will now season our food. I will start with nutmeg. Usually I'm using freshly ground nutmeg, but you can use pre-ground nutmeg just as well. After that we will add some black pepper, also freshly ground in my case. The same goes for the pepper. You can use pre-ground one if you prefer that. If you are a regular viewer of my videos, you may have noticed that I like pepper very much. In my opinion, it's just one of the best spices out there. In between seasoning, we should not forget to stir the contents of our pan from time to time, just to make sure nothing burns. That is a very healthy habit to develop for cooking. You almost cannot stir your food too much. Another very healthy habit to develop is checking your heat from time to time and adjust it according to your needs. In my case, I clearly needed to lower the heat a little bit. Then we will salt our dish. After that, we will add some parsley. I'm using dried parsley as I do most of the time. And after that, we will only need to add some ground chili into the mix. And that's it, our dish is seasoned. I'm using homegrown dried chili here, which I obviously dried and afterwards simply blended and filled into this grinder. And you may have noticed that the chili kernels are also in there. And boy do they pack a punch. I love it. After that, simply stir the contents of your pan so the spices and herbs will mix with the rest of the ingredients. And we are getting ever closer to finishing this dish. Very few steps remain before we can dig into it. On the one hand, we will need to add our lemon peel into the mix. I have peeled my lemon off camera using the device you can see on screen. I recommend you get one that is similar to this one because it will make your life easier when it comes to peeling lemons. And if you don't know what it's called, here's the German name: Zestenreißer. Good luck with that. But I digress. We will also need to add our breadcrumbs into the pan and then stir them under. You could also fry the breadcrumbs separately with some oil or butter, but in my opinion that's not really necessary. Okay, our noodles are just about done. We will now need to drain off the noodle water, and we will also need to catch some of it in a small bowl. Adding a little bit of noodle water will simply make the dish a little more creamy and also help us to remove all of the drippings from the bottom of the pan. Simply take care to not drown your vegetables. After we've added the water, we can now stir the contents of the pan once more. You can clearly see the drippings dissolving in the noodle water, and they will now stick to the vegetables. Nice. Okay, that leaves only our noodles. We will add them into the pan and stir them under. And if you haven't, you can turn off the heat by now. The dish is basically done. Once everything is thoroughly mixed, we can start putting it onto plates and garnish it with Parmesan and our roasted pine nuts. But this also brings us to the end of today's episode of Knobi Cooks. I hope you very much enjoyed this episode. Tell me how you like this dish, especially if you cooked it yourself. Leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.